Webster is next on BCTV.
Good morning. Drama on the high seas comes very close to home when 500-odd people on board the Dutch luxury cruise liner, the Prinsendam, catches fire off the Alaska coast. And when there are, of course, on this $3,000 luxury cruise, presumably lots of British Columbians on board. And we'll be talking to one of the survivors, Ken Speirs of West Vancouver, very shortly. But first, I want to make a reference to my program last week with Karl Friedman, the Ombudsman. He made much of the fact that he didn't always get the cooperation he should from the provincial government. As a matter of fact, he was particularly critical of the Attorney General's Department, whom he said had lost a file connected with one of the judge's inquiries. He thought it was Benrot, but it wasn't Benrot, it was Buleigh. But just to refresh your memory before I tell you what happened, I want you to see what the Ombudsman said to me the other morning about this.
We have, for example, tried to get access to a file, the proceedings of a public inquiry. Well, first the ministry said, well, the provincial secretary has it. Go and ask them. The provincial secretary tells me, no, it's with the Attorney General. We asked the Attorney General, and he says, all right, you can have access to it. That was a member of the public who wanted to have access to the proceedings of that, of a inquiry of the Judicial Council. And we get the assurance from the Attorney General himself that, yes, you may have access, and I hereby, of course, give authorization. And we get back to the ministry, and they say, we've lost it. We've lost it. We've lost the record.
Was that the recent judicial inquiry into the conduct of a provincial court judge?
Yes.
They have lost it.
Yes, that's what they said.
I was so taken aback by this. I clarified later with the Ombudsman that it was not the Benrot inquiry, but the Buleigh affair. But I was so taken back, I decided to do my own little ombudsperson and see if I could find it. I found the file in 5 minutes. First of all, the Attorney General's Department tells me that they did not lose the file. Where is the file? Well, I'll tell Karl Friedman now that a full transcript of the public hearings of both the Benrot affair and the Buleigh affair are safely in the custody of the Judicial Council of British Columbia. One phone call 5 minutes later, I ascertained that without any shadow of a doubt whatsoever. And furthermore, I can inform Dr. Friedman, our Ombudsman, that on a proper request from the Attorney General to the Judicial Council of British Columbia, the appropriate document will be transferred to the Attorney General for the Ombudsman to see it and decide if this member of the public is going to have access, as I believe he's already decided, to the proceedings involving the kerfuffle some time ago about Judge Buleigh and his conduct. So there you are, Karl. Wasn't lost. You know exactly where it is. Now you can carry on with your job, go get it, and make it accessible to the public. And talking about the public, I have a representative of the public here this morning, duly elected, Jim Nielsen, Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs. Want to nag him about BC.R.I.C, want to nag him about scanners, because I've used these scanners in the department stores, and I think they're just dreadful, dreadful. And I want to nag him about this funny Sunday drinking caper that we're now up to in British Columbia. Apart from that, we're going to talk to, said he, checking his list, 2 minor candidates in the Vancouver civic election, Frank Helden and David Ingram. Later this morning, too, we'll be talking to an expert on traffic, if we have time, and it looks as if we might or might not have time. So next is the chat-up with the survivor, Ken Speirs of West Vancouver, of the Prinsendam crisis on the high seas, after the break. We found Ken Speirs, one of the survivors from the Prinsendam, in Valdez this morning, just before we went on the air. He and his wife were on the cruise. He and his wife were among those crew passengers who survived. Here's my conversation with him. Looking back over the weekend, was it the best or the worst weekend of your life?
Well, I was really enjoying myself up till 1 o'clock the other day.
Well, now just, was it?
It was a little rough.
A little rough. Okay, start from the beginning and tell us the story again, seeing we're neighbors in West Vancouver. When did you first know of this crisis?
I woke up at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Uh-huh.
And said to the wife, there's something wrong, the boat's not going.
Right.
About 3 minutes later, they came over an announcement from one of the fellows that looks after the entertainment director, saying, would everybody come up to the main deck, not the main deck, the boat deck, and the salon, the promenade deck. They said that there's been a small fire, but it's under control, but please come up there, so in case there's some smoke. So quite a few people came, but about 3 minutes later, he came back again and said, no, don't go to the salon, get on the promenade deck outside and bring some warm clothing. Well, by this time, of course, a lot of people had already left, but they didn't tell them to take any life belts or anything else. And so we got up there, and we were lucky. We grabbed a few clothes, and we took our life belts automatically. But
where were your life belts? In your stateroom?
Yeah.
So you got your warm clothes on, picked up your wallet, I hope?
No, I picked up one of them. But anyway, the thing is that no, we lost everything, all our money, our airline tickets, and all the rest of it. Everything, jewelry, the whole bunch. And when you
got to the boat deck, was there much confusion there?
No, actually, there was no confusion at all on the boat deck, except, as I say, a lot of the people had nothing but their nightshirts on, you know.
Tell me, did you go to a particular boat station, or were you just shepherded about by the officers?
Station, but we didn't. You didn't have to go there. And after some of our elderly people didn't even remember there, because quite a few elderly people. I mean, 75, some 80.
How long was it before they started putting you into the lifeboats?
Oh, not until 2:30.
So it was at 1 o'clock in the morning when you awakened, and at 10:30...
We went up.
And then at 2:30...
Some of them went back inside into the theater section and the front cocktail place, but they sat around there. There was no rush about anything. Nobody said anything. And of course, when they then lowered one boat down to the boat deck, and said that they were just putting that down, not to get excited. They're just putting that down because the flares, the helicopters were coming out with some more equipment to fight the fire.
Okay. How many were in your lifeboat?
That I can't tell you. It was jammed like rats. That was a real interesting thing. But I'll say this, that the overall picture, as far as what he said, this is the captain. He only spoke a few words twice, and to say that the fire was out, and that nothing to worry about. The next fire, after the second time he said that, then he said, oh, we're going to have to abandon the ship. And, of course, they wouldn't let anybody back down again to get any clothes or anything prior to this, and they had about 2 hours to fool around. I'd say that the captain and the ship's officers did a mighty poor job.
In other words, they seemed to change their mind. First of all, everything was okay, and then you got the word...
I'd say that I was on the Prinsendam in 1975, and they had a very efficient crew. This time, as far as I'm concerned, they should have been running a tugboat.
Tell me, how did you actually get into the lifeboat? Down a ladder, or did they put you on the...
On the promenade deck is where you get in the lifeboat.
And then they swung the boat over the side?
Swung the boat over where the rails are, you know.
Tell me, how was the weather?
By this time, there was a lot of elderly people, and they were confused, and they didn't know where they knew their number, but they didn't know where it was. And our place was, we were in boat number 3. And we had a boat drill, and everybody should have been very, knowing where they were at. And they did. But half of them didn't have any glasses. They couldn't see. They didn't have any life jackets.
How cold was it?
It was very fortunate it stopped raining, but it was cold.
How long were you in the lifeboat?
Oh, 11 hours.
Did you have any water or food in the lifeboat?
No, they never found, after about 3 hours they found the flares, but I'll tell you that's a different story. They're a little different. I'll tell you this, so you got the highlights of it. The Coast Guard up here and the helicopters, they were fabulous. The paramedics were up from Comox, from the RAF, and they landed, they were on the freighter. That's the oil freighter we were on. They were fabulous.
That was the Williamsburg?
Yes, the William, yeah.
Well, tell me this, when you were in your lifeboat, how many lifeboats?
When we were getting on the lifeboats, all these Indonesian crew boys,
yeah,
they were the first ones in the lifeboats. The first ones in the lifeboats. And one of then all the lights went out, and they didn't. The fellow, they're supposed to have a guy in charge. He's standing there with a list of names for our lifeboat, and he didn't even have a flashlight. So you can imagine he didn't know who the hell was getting in there, who wasn't.
There must have been 100 in your lifeboat.
Huh?
There must have been 100 in your lifeboat.
Oh God, it was. Well, I was the second to the last person in, and they had my wife was in. Just one ahead of me, and then there was one little old lady that I was trying to get somebody who was standing against the wall to get in, trying to get somebody to help put her in. And when I got in, I was the last man in, and I had to stand up for the first hour and a half with one foot in one part of a thing and one foot in the other part, and try to push an oar thing. Standing
room only in the lifeboat. Tell me, when you were in the lifeboat in the water, how many other lifeboats were around you? Could you see the other lifeboats?
After a while, when we got clear of the ship, when they see they had an Indonesian seaman on our lifeboat, no officer, and this guy, they didn't even know how to pull the pins to get the thing from the main deck down. They couldn't, you know, they knew very little English, but he didn't know how to pull the pins.
But they finally got it down.
And hollering at him. Eventually he pulled the pins and we slid out. Then they let the boat down. Then when we got in the water, of course, you're in the waves next to the boat.
Right.
And you know the big block and tackle that's on there?
Yeah.
He couldn't get that off. Eventually, this is on the bow end. He eventually got it off. He was so brilliant, the first thing he did was let it go. And, of course, it weighs a half a ton, and it came swinging back, and I was standing up so I could see it, so I hollered at this guy, and I leaned forward, and I just helped stop knocking a man's head off.
Listen, Ken...
This is in the water now.
Now, how bad were the waves?
Oh, they were pretty high.
Were they coming into the boat?
Pardon?
Were they coming into the boat?
20 feet, I guess.
Were they coming into the boat?
Coming into the boat?
Yeah.
No. The boat rode very well. But we had a hard time. As I say,
all right, now, how did you get from the lifeboat into the Williamsburg?
That is, from the lifeboat in the Williamsburg, it was the helicopters came and took up one at a time in a basket.
From the sea to the deck of the Williamsburg?
No. That was a fairly big chopper, Sikorsky. It took in about 10 to 12 people.
In the basket?
Time into the helicopter. Then it would take that bunch over to the Williams Head.
And how did they treat you on the Williamsburg? Good?
But the same thing happened there, that as soon as the chopper came, guess who the first ones off the boat were? The Indonesian crew boys. And we also had this Indonesian band guys, and they were just a bunch of...
No, mind what you say there. Not so, you can tell that to the inquiry later on, I should think. Now, how did you get from the Williamsburg to Valdez?
By this big oil freighter.
She took you into Valdez. Okay, when are you and your wife leaving Valdez, Ken?
What's that?
When are you leaving Valdez for Vancouver?
No, they're supposed to tell us at 7:30 this morning. They're trying to get planes arranged, and we don't know yet whether we go to Anchorage or whether we go from here or whether... What we're supposed to find out at 7:30 this morning what arrangement. Some of us are around. Some got rescued by the Coast Guard, and some are in Sitka. But most of us are here. About 400, I guess, are here.
Well, I suppose you can count your blessings that you all lived through it and nobody was...
Happy. We are very happy. And as I say, I'll say this, that the people that were traveling were an intelligent group, and for some of these elderly women, they're just amazing, you know.
No panic at all, really?
No, they didn't panic, but they were pretty sick, and some of them, of course, were soaked right through, and but when they got on the boat, the tanker, the tanker people were fabulous, and everybody pitched in and tried to warm everybody up, you know, and they had...
Ken, I'm very grateful for your experience. I hope you and your wife, you'll get all your claims settled in due course, and you'll be back in West Van probably tomorrow.
We're lucky to be living.
Thanks, Ken. Ken Speirs and his wife from West Vancouver. A classic example of first-class skill and cooperation by the Williamsburg, its crew, the American Coast Guard, and the Canadian Search and Rescue. See what kind of classic example we can get of cooperation now from Jim Nielsen, the Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs, after the break. What did you say to me a minute ago about something I knew nothing about?
Well, I suppose the list is endless, Jack, but I was saying scanners specifically. You wanted to speak about scanners this morning.
Do you ever go shopping?
I go shopping
rarely. Have you ever seen a scanner in action?
Yes, yes.
Do you realize how unfair it is to people?
I don't know why it would be unfair.
Well, I'll tell you.
All right.
Here's my package or whatever. Yeah. And the girl goes, ping, sometimes ping, 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 ping. That's in that direction. Mm-hmm. In that direction, in the better stores, there's a readout. And if I go ping, I see tomatoes $1.60. Ping, tea $3.60. Ping, and if I don't have my glasses on, I don't see a damn thing. Totally unfair to the consumer who wants to know how much they're paying for an item as and when they buy it. Now, don't tell me I'm wrong, Jimmy Nielsen, Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs.
Well, I wouldn't say you're wrong. I'd say that your opinion is probably wrong, but not you personally. The scanners, there's no objection to what you described, the pinging and the posting of the prices. And there's no objection to the readout you receive on your tape. The only objection is to the lack of the price on the item itself. That's the only objection we've received.
Well, why haven't you done something to stop that and make the SuperValues and Safeways and everybody else involved ticket the item as well as the shelf?
I'm not quite sure how we would like to do that, Jack. There's no law requiring them to do that. There never has been.
In Ontario, they don't let them use the scanner codes only?
No, in Ontario, they've agreed that they will continue to price them individually for a period of time.
Why don't you do that?
We have no such agreement with the supermarkets.
You can impose it if you want to.
By legislation, we could, yes.
Why don't you?
Well, to do that by legislation would be a bureaucratic nightmare.
Nicole Parton says, furthermore, that in certain sections of Safeway, it looks like they're going to put the coding on non-scanner items. So you'll only get the price on the shelf, and you might not even get it in a readout. Or if you get it in a readout, it's accompanied with a code, and you've got to pick up your copy of the code, go home with your groceries and say, 396 BCT.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's not fair.
No, we haven't heard about that system, but...
Have you investigated Nicole's column?
We're asking for an explanation of what she has said.
From her or from Safeway?
From Safeway.
When will you get it? Christmas time?
Oh, before Christmas time.
Before Christmas.
Well, we're looking into, there are a series of programs. We use one in some of our liquor stores, which is a code system. But it gives you a full printout of what you've purchased. In your case, it would be a dozen bottles of scotch at so much per item, and then the total. And your change, $1,000 bill, and then it would print out how much.
No, I'm not a member of the Social Credit Campaign Committee. I've never had a $1,000 bill.
Well, I was thinking of the quantity that probably would be required. You'd need something fairly heavy.
Unfair crack, but you deserved it.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. I accept your apology. I accept your apology. But the real evil, Jimmy, is the fact that if an item is individually priced and it's old stock, I get it at the old stock price. If it's a scanner code, I'm quite sure that all the old stock can be instantly repriced at the new one.
Well, all of the old stock can be instantly repriced, which they have advised us they would never do. They do not change prices midway through a day. But there's nothing to prevent any store from repricing old stock now. They can take the old tags off and put a new price tag on. Nothing prevents them from doing that now.
Except it's physical.
It's physical.
Whereas with the scanner, you just
Sure.
adjust the computer,
Yes.
I suppose.
Yes.
Now, this question, it's a simple
All right.
question for a simple answer.
Sure.
Is it not a fact that you are planning a scanner code for liquor in your LCB stores?
No, we're not the scanner system. It is the system I think Nicole referred to in her column that Safeway may be implementing on some other items.
Are you going to do it for the liquor board?
Yes, we've done this in, I think, 2 or 3 stores now. We've had it going for over a year. And each bottle is simply tagged with a code number. The code number is punched in on the cash register. The tape then comes out and it says, for example, the brand of scotch at whatever the price may be, plus the tax. It's all automatic, just takes one simple key by the operator. He punches in 437 or whatever the code may be, and then you have your printout. It also gives us the opportunity at the end of the day or the end of the week to punch in code numbers, and it will give us up-to-date information on our stock, how many items have been sold, what remains on the shelves, and we can then tie it into ordering through the head office. So
and you can also reprice your old stock instantly to the new price.
We could do that by changing the tapes, yes, but Jack, we keep any old stock on the shelves now with the old price. And they're red tagged, which means it's the old price until it's all gone off the shelves.
Let's go back. Would you concede to me, Jimmy, that even though it'll break your bleeding heart, that for people of my age and older, with or without glasses, computer scanning pricing is very confusing?
Oh, I agree the whole thing is very confusing, but it is not as bad as some would make it out.
Is it fair to the public who want to see the price on the item and know what they're buying even when they're going through their shopping basket?
Well, they know. There's no reason why a customer does not know what the price of the item is. You have your price
telling you, if you go
immediately
through
in front of you. The price is immediately
on the
in front
shelf.
of you on the shelf.
Sometimes.
Yes. No, all times.
No.
Well, we have agreements with all of the stores that this will be done. Jack, what we're attempting to avoid is legislation with massive regulations where you exempt certain items, where you exempt certain classes of stores, where you have all regulations with respect to various items that are quick turnover items, whether they're dairy products or produce products or whatever it may be.
You have refused to get involved in any inquiry into fairness to the shopper on scanners.
Jack, we've had virtually no complaints from shoppers unless it's an organized campaign by an organization or a columnist.
Look, any
We get
giddle in
very minimum complaints.
Any giddle in Super Value and Park Royal will tell you that every time I go in, and occasionally I do the shopping, I say, hold it. Why did you ping that 4 times? What was the item up there? Now, admittedly, I can take home the groceries with a printout, and on that system in Super Value, it tells me T360.
Well, it gives you the brand, too, I suppose.
I don't care about the brand, but I'm saying that we, the ordinary shopper, feels that this is another means of saving expenses for the big stores and putting an additional load on the somewhat confused and worried customer. Don't you agree?
No, I don't agree, Jack, because you'd also be adding a tremendous cost to the smaller stores who do not individually price their items today. If you're going to bring in legislation that says you must individually price each item, then you're looking at all stores, including corner stores. And you're going to add considerable cost to them.
You're telling me that in the corner stores they don't individually price items? Of course
Jack,
they do.
I can show you corner stores where you will have a small cardboard sign that might say, Heinz ketchup, 57 cents a bottle. And there's no prices on the individual
More
bottles.
likely 89 cents
Well, whatever
a
the
bottle.
price might be.
You obviously
Think
don't
very
do much,
small bottle.
No much shop. Anyway, Nielsen turns his face against consumer protests, which he says are imaginary, about the use of scanners and the extra efficiency of the big department store chains with more inconvenience for the public. That's your position.
No, that's your interpretation of my position.
And I'm right.
No, you're inaccurate.
Okay, I'll take the $1,000 bill now, after the break. I'll take some telephone calls specifically restricted to those who object to scanners in supermarkets. That's all I want. I want to, if possible, I may be full of wind as usual, to demonstrate to the unthinking Minister of Consumer Affairs that there is a body of protest out there. Now, if there isn't,
Well, I'm sure
I'll
there
admit
is.
it to you.
I'm sure there is, Jack. You've
In the meantime,
well, you've
however,
asked for only the negative side.
That's correct.
Okay.
I made that quite, as you used to do in your open line program
Never.
many years ago.
Never do that.
Was you
It's always unknown.
same-sex callers?
Never. Very rarely.
Now, I do not understand, nor does anybody else, what the dickens you've done with weekend drinking. You're now going to open little managers' lounges in certain favoured areas where you've got to be a guest and where if you come on your bicycle from 10 miles away and get a day room, you can get in for booze. Is that right?
The only changes we've made recently, we do have managers' lounges, and they've been around for some time. The difference is they'll be open on Sundays.
What managers' lounges?
Person who checks into a hotel as a guest has use of the amenities of the hotel. Sauna baths, swimming pools, tennis courts, whatever they may be, and what we refer to as a manager's lounge, which is available to guests to use.
Where? Name one.
Well, I've various hotels in the province. They're only now
The Hyatt
developing
Regency?
them. They'll probably
The
have
Hotel
one.
Vancouver?
They will have one, yes.
Keeping them a secret from me, these managers'
Well,
lounges.
these-
You have now authorized...
These are for registered guests.
You have now authorized managers' lounges for whom?
For registered guests.
Where?
In various hotels throughout the province.
Named.
I don't think they're in operation at the moment.
Well, for instance, will the Palace in Vancouver have one? And will the Hyatt Regency have one?
I'm sure the Hyatt Regency will have one. I'm sure the Vancouver Hotel will. And the George
What about the Balmoral?
They'd have to make application. It would have to be approved.
Oh, this is an upper class thing only.
No, not upper
Not for the
class.
common people.
Oh, for the common people.
Just
if
for the
they're
fancy
registered
hotels.
guests. No, it's for tourism, basically.
Okay,
Not a big issue.
you can't discriminate. There are laws against discrimination, you know.
The hotels discriminate against guests and non-guests. You know that?
And then you slip in your guests. Of course you slip in. How can you arrive in town from Skookumchuck or from San Francisco,
Sure.
and you're a guest,
Yes.
and your friends come in from Vancouver.
Yes.
They can't have a drink.
Sure. If you're along with guests, same as a club.
It's wide open
as it is
Sunday
now.
drinking.
No, not quite wide open Sunday drinking.
You, as a
But it
social
could-
credit
it could-
cabinet minister,
it could-
are introducing wide open Sunday drinking in upper class hotels.
Well, hardly wide open Sunday drinking, Jack. You can drink on Sundays in hotels now, and you have been for years.
Only with meals.
Well, or in conjunction with meals, yes.
Right.
So what's changed?
And
Not much has changed.
Despite
Very
your,
little has changed.
Despite your snarky remarks about me and whiskey, I am basically against any further expansion of the liquor laws. There's enough booze around now without making it available on Sundays.
Well, there's a demand for it on Sundays, and we're meeting that demand. Sunday drinking has been available in the province for many, many years. But it's been confined to private clubs.
Can we leave it that way? That I don't understand what you're doing.
You don't.
No.
The biggest thing we're doing now is allowing resort areas to have certain licensed premises operating on Sundays.
For guests.
No, for people in those resort areas.
Guests and friends.
No, not in the resort areas, Jack. If you were to go to Whistler on a
Sunday
weekend in the winter when it's operating as the resort, you would find the neighborhood pub or the cabaret probably open on the Sunday, just as it would be any other day of the week.
Oh. Well, just let's forget the whole thing.
But no, the demand is there. We constantly hear from people who say, when are you going to come into the 20th century?
The one new thing you've done is open managers' lounges in resort area and fancy hotels. Is that right?
Those are one thing we've done. Yes, one of the things we've done.
What else have you done?
As I said, in resort areas.
Vancouver's a resort area.
No, Vancouver isn't a resort. Whistler is an example of a resort. It's a resort municipality. By legislation, it's a resort municipality.
So really
it's a good example.
You've really done nothing.
Nothing that should concern you.
Oh, well, just let's forget the whole thing. Okay.
Or if you're on a cruise ship.
No, thank you.
Oh.
What was the other thing? Why have you not, as a Minister of Consumer of Corporate Affairs, not investigated the merits of BC.R.I.C?
It's not for us to decide on the merits of BC.R.I.C.
What have you done?
With respect to the Kaiser,
I believe under pressure from the Ontario Securities Commission, you jumped in belatedly with Mr. Getz doing an inquiry.
no, hardly. The Getz inquiry was initiated in cooperation with the Ontario Securities Commission, which is involved in the transactions in options. We're not. We don't have them on our board. Ontario Commission, our Superintendent of Brokers, Rupert Buleigh, and together we hired Leon Getz to investigate any possibility of insider trading.
And that's all?
That's all.
Meanwhile, your man Bullock has authorized the suspension of trading in the 1,100,000 shares held as options by the Kaiser official.
Until the inquiry is complete.
Will this cancel the BRIC deal?
I don't know, Jack. I don't see why it should. The
can't go ahead unless they've got 51% of the shares, and without them they don't have 51%.
The 1.1 million or whatever number of shares may be involved with the executives. The suspension of trading does not mean that they cannot trade eventually. It is held up pending the results of the inquiry.
Will therefore the entire BRIC deal be held up pending the inquiry?
It could result in that, Jack. You're asking really a legal question, and I would have to.
Will you play any part in stopping the BRIC deal as Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs if necessary?
No, we are confined to any possible violation under the Securities Act. That's the only thing we're concerned with. We're not concerned with the merits of any deal in a private company. We're only interested in the legalities of any transaction.
All right, what about Jim Nielsen, the politician? Are you not sorely embarrassed by the fact the stock could have been bought at 31.44 and is now being bought at 55 while the BRIC shares still hover around $6? Are you not sorely embarrassed by the deal?
Jack, I'm not embarrassed by it because I haven't taken it upon myself to attempt to analyze it. I allow the financial analysts to offer their opinion.
You mean you've no opinion on the BRIC deal?
No, I have no opinion on the BRIC deal. Certainly not until the inquiry is over, and certainly not until the Ontario Commission's inquiry.
But the inquiry doesn't affect the merits of the deal. The inquiry is only on the insider trading options.
That's our BC inquiry.
As a politician, would you stand up now as a social credit politician and defend the BRIC deal? One new job for Edgar Kaiser?
Jack, I wouldn't defend any of the specific transactions in it because we haven't looked into them.
The merits of the deal. As a politician, is it a good deal?
I would think that the management of BRIC has a fairly good understanding of what they're doing, and from what I understand, there's every reason to suggest that indeed it's a good financial deal.
You almost said it's a good deal.
Well, no, I'm not going to say it's not
round
for me.
The corner.
Not for me to decide if it's a good deal.
Jimmy,
remember, Jack, it's a private company.
It's so different when you're... What do you mean a private company?
It's owned by the shareholders.
Who's the biggest shareholder?
The government owns 5%.
Who put the money into the company? The government did.
Well, the people of BC put the money into the company.
Can't sell.
Well, those are the assets. Those are the assets, yes.
2.3 million in oil lease acres.
Yes.
Put in by the government.
Yes.
And you believe it's a private company?
It's a private company, sure. But it's certainly not a crown corporation.
Boy, you'll be different when you're campaigning for office next time. Yeah. You'll have strong opinions on almost everything.
I always have strong opinions on almost everything.
Except this morning.
Except this morning.
You dodged scanners, you can't explain the drinking, and you dodged BRIC.
It's your overpowering presence, Jack. I haven't seen you looking so good in years, and I was thinking perhaps it's the new you, and you're frightening.
You'll make me throw up in a minute. One segment of telephone calls with people against scanners. Don't say good morning, Mr. Nielsen. Is that you, Mr. Nielsen? Or hello, Webster, the rest of it. Give them a short, sharp, hopefully pungent opinion.
Pungent opinion.
Good word.
You've quit smoking. I guess that's why you're looking so good.
No, I haven't. You know I'm a hypocrite. I smoke underneath the desk. After the break. Pungently on scanners to Mr. Nielsen. That's you. Go ahead, please.
I think they're a legal way of ripping people off without them having a proper choice or on...
Proper understanding, you mean? Where is he? That's all he's going to say. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I've been ripped off by your scanners.
My scanners?
Economart. I mentally add every grocery I buy, and $34 worth at Economart ended up to be $64 worth with the scanners.
Well, did you check your bill?
Check my bill. Now, what I do from now on is the way they can fight it. I buy a marker pencil, and I personally mark everything I buy before it goes up to the counter.
Okay, ma'am.
Why would anyone who, if that occurred to someone, why would they go back to the store? I can't understand why a person would shop in a scanner store
Leave it to
if
Jimmy
they oppose
Nielsen,
to it.
and they'll all be scanner stores.
That may happen, Jack, yes.
Go ahead, please.
I'm against.
Thank you, ma'am. How about you?
There's a terrible racket on the buying public.
You don't feel properly, fairly treated, do you?
Oh, I certainly don't. I want to know what I'm buying and what I'm paying for.
Thank you, ma'am. How do you like that, Jimmy?
Well, you only asked for negative callers, Jack. What do
That's
you-
right.
Oh,
The only ones you'll listen to.
oh, I see.
Otherwise, there was a bunch of social credit people from Richmond phoning in to back you up.
There's nothing wrong with good social credit people in Richmond. It's a backbone of the province. You know that.
Go ahead, please. Better than sorry. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I don't like the scanners, and I would like to point out that this pricing on the shelf falls down completely. We're dealing with a lot of small items in a limited space, like spices or...
Just a minute. That's the point I made. You try and find the actual tag that refers to your item, and it ain't always that easy, even in the best of the stores.
For instance, in the pet food, something I buy in volume and I like to know about, you may find the same brand,
That phone's fading.
it's all different prices, and you have a heck of a time trying to figure out which is which.
Thank you, ma'am. Jimmy's got your opinion, looking at you with querulous eyes. Go ahead, please.
I'm against scanners. I'm not going to shop in a store with a scanner, even if I have to drive 10 miles.
Thank you, ma'am.
That's the message that's the message they will understand, Jack.
You could help them.
Well, if people are not going to frequent a store that has a scanner system, that store is going to quickly change its merchandising. You know, the prices were not put on the items to help the customer to begin with. Prices were put on the items so the checkout girl knew what the price of the item was.
Okay, I'm just going to go down the lines once.
Okay, sure. Do one of your 100 call opinion polls.
That's right.
Only negatives.
I
Only negatives
originated
count.
that
Sure.
technique in open line
Well,
broadcasting
you didn't
many years
originate
ago.
it. You copied it from others, but these are all negatives, so if there's anything less than 100%,
Look who's
you
talking
failed.
about being negative. Are you against scanners?
I'm against.
Thank you. Are you against scanners?
Yes.
Thank you. Are you against scanners?
Yes.
Thank you. Are you against scanners?
Yes.
Thank you. Are you against scanners?
I am.
Thank you. Are you against scanners? Thank you. Are you against scanners?
Hello?
Are you against scanners? Thank you. Don't be so slow in answering. Are you against scanners?
No, I'm not.
You're not. One in favor. Go away. Are you against scanners? You are. Thank you very much. Are you against scanners?
Yes, I am, and the prices are not put on for the checkout girls, because when you go through, they don't even know what the price is.
Thank you, ma'am. Are you against scanners? Can't hear you.
Yes, I am.
That level, you need to bring up the level on the phone a bit. You're against them. Are you against them?
Yes, I am against.
Thank you. Are you against them? I can hear the delay back through the phone feedback. Because of that, I will stop using the telephone and give you the bad news. 12-1.
That's not bad when you only ask for negatives.
Shows you a lot of people dying there to get at you and vote against you in Richmond in the next election because of your inaction on scanners.
That happened last time, Jack. Not everyone's going to be, you know, not everyone's going to
didn't
agree.
you? What was your majority?
Oh, about 52%, somewhere around there.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Okay.
Much obliged.
All right, Jack.
Next, what am I doing? Grateful. Can at least treat you like an old friend or an old enemy. Thanks to Jim Nielsen, the Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs. I'll be back next with the two minor mayoralty candidates after the break. Some mornings I must brace myself and arrange programming for the weeks and sometimes months ahead. On this occasion, we must face up to the fact that we are once again coming into a Vancouver mayoralty election. And I'm telling you, it's going to be a tough one to cover brightly and succinctly on this occasion. So I brought the two minor candidates for mayor up first, and I know they don't mind me saying that. What's your name, sir?
Frank Helden, the
How
only
old?
Helden in the phone book.
How old are you, Frank?
I'm 62 years old.
Did you run for alderman last time?
In 78 I did.
What do you do for a living?
I'm in the BC telephone company in the directory and stationery department.
You're not on strike or anything at the moment.
Oh, heavens no, we wouldn't go on strike. We might get locked out.
And why are you bothering to waste your time to run? You know perfectly well you won't get 1,000 votes.
How do you know? I might get 11,000. If
What
I
did you get the last
11,000, I
time?
won't lose my $300.
How much did you get the last time
I
as an
got
alderman?
around about 5,000, 6,000, I don't know.
In
But
one
it's not the
minute,
same, Jack.
in 1 minute or less, tell me why you should be made mayor of Vancouver.
Because I'm for the people. I go all over the lower mainland, and I'm in the Army, Navy, Air Force, the Royal Canadian Legion, the Royal Marines Association. I'm in the BC Tel, where I'm very well known, and I stand a very good chance this time because I'm for the working people, and also the idea of having hotels where you can have a drink on a Sunday.
If you're for the working people, you should vote for, what's the name of that socialist fella? Harcourt.
Harcourt, he's not a working fellas person.
What is he?
He was endorsed by the Vancouver District Labour Council. I'm the one who should be endorsed by that group.
Telecommunication Workers Union.
That's right, I'm an executive shop steward in that lot.
But you've no administrative experience, have you, Frank?
I was in the Royal Marines as a corporal, if that was any good.
Which war? Same war as me.
Second war.
The Second
World
War?
Yeah, sure.
Hitler's war.
That's right, Hitler's war.
Well, if I had a vote, I'd vote for you, Frank. But I don't have a vote in Vancouver.
That's what lots of people tell me. So they're going to camp one night and they'll be allowed to vote in Vancouver the next day.
Here comes the big fella. I never know how to describe you, so describe yourself. David Ingram.
Well, tax consultant, financial
Little
consultant,
louder, please.
tax consultant, financial consultant, mayoralty candidate for the city of Vancouver. What else do you want me to say?
Travel business?
Travel business,
Real estate business?
real estate business, life insurance.
Wealthy man?
I don't think wealthy is the right word.
Well
Certainly
fixed?
comfortably well off.
Are you filing your income tax returns this year, or are you still got those 25 charges against you?
No, there was only 15.
15, I do accept my
Yes,
apologies.
the 15
of failing
charges.
to file.
Oh, certainly, Jack. Remember that the failing to file tax returns, we did this 2 years ago. I mean, this is really revamping
I
the thing.
think that's awful.
No, it isn't, because you don't realize why they were done. They weren't because I didn't file the tax returns. They were originally a deliberate and absolute attempt to say to the government, why are you pushing little people around?
Yeah.
And I used my own tax returns as an example.
Did they fine you?
No, they did not fine me.
Did they acquit you?
They acquitted me.
On all charges?
On all charges, every single last one
Is
of
your
them.
head sore this morning?
Is my what?
Is your halo too tight?
I don't think my halo's too tight. See, Jack, the reason that those tax charges were laid, and let's do it first, let's just get it over with.
We've done it. Finish with it.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to
because they
nag
keep
you on
on
it.
pushing little people around.
You're not a little people.
No, but I let myself be open to show that when they sit there and they pull their apostrophes and their periods and their commas and they put them in against people, it is slightly ridiculous. Do you know something?
We'll call you apostrophe Ingram from now on.
Right now, for instance, the mayor, the aldermen, the members of the provincial legislature are all getting a tax-free allowance. They think they're getting a tax-free allowance, but the Income Tax Act, for instance, makes that allowance taxable, and I don't know why they're all taking this thing and not reporting it on their tax return. If you want to play games with income tax and so on, every single elected official...
Are you suggesting that all these publicly elected officials are in breach of the Tax Act?
I certainly am. Section 6(1)(b) of the Tax Act very
Have you
clearly
reported
says...
them to the Tax Department?
It's been done in the last 2 weeks.
Oh, you've done it?
Oh, yes. You see, one of the things that
We've got a
happened-
story here.
Oh, yes.
David
One of the
Ingram
things-
is telling me that he has personally filed with the Tax Department
I've written a letter.
complaint.
I've written a letter, let's put it that way.
Written a letter to whom?
To the local director of taxation, 1166
Saying what?
West Pender, that because of 4 cases that were lost in tax court, and just for the record, that's number 80 DTC 1545, and they were 4 union people as a matter of interest, where the union people, the union representatives, were taxed on their allowances that they were given to go out and clearly were to spend on union business. And this is the same reason. The judge said it is with deep regret that I dismiss this application. You know, he said it is with deep regret. This is ridiculous that the union that is in the business of negotiating contracts would be so naive as to not consult proper legal opinion. Now,
You're
hold
losing
on.
me, David.
No, I'm not
You're
losing you.
me.
Look
Keep
what
it
happened.
simple for the old fella.
Basically what happened was, back in July, 4 union officials had to pay tax on their...
On what was thought to be a tax-free allowance.
What has been a tax-free allowance for 30 years. The same logic has been used to give aldermen, school board officials, and mayors and MLAs in the provincial government their tax-free allowances. You know how they're told they get $24,000 salary and $8,000 tax-free allowance. Now, the act that applies, Section 6(1)(b), exempts certain people. It exempts a member of Parliament. It exempts a member of the armed forces who's traveling. It exempts a visiting clergyman. It exempts a volunteer fireman. It doesn't exempt an MLA or a city official. Their allowances are clearly taxable under the Act. Anyway, that's just a minor thing.
No, that intrigues me. You have complained to the tax department.
Well, very definitely. I did it yesterday.
You did it yesterday. Complained to the tax department that people such as the mayor and aldermen and elected officials in Vancouver are not being properly taxed on their so-called tax-free allowances.
That's correct.
Oh, you hope to nail everybody who's in office like now, like Voorhees, for instance.
Well, every one of those people, if they read they're all lawyers, just about all lawyers. If they read the Act, they would take a look at it, and Section 61B says that all allowances are taxable except, and it says allowances for any purpose whatsoever.
Will you let me know when you get the answer?
Oh, I certainly will, Mr. Webster.
That's my name, Webster.
Yes.
Could I say something briefly?
No, you have Frank, baby.
Huh?
Frank Helden, David Ingram.
No, that's only a minor part of whatever, and that's not
How many
part of my
votes
mayor's
did you get
campaign.
last time?
I got about 4,600.
I'll give you 6,000 on our usual bet this time. You will not get
Jack,
more than 6,000 votes.
I'll give you 10,000.
You're saying that you will get more than 10,000 votes?
In fact, I'll give you 20,000.
And a bottle of whiskey?
Sure, you got to get a chance to get my bottle of scotch back. No, it was
You're going
scotch.
to, if you get less than 20,000, you owe me a bottle of scotch?
I will pay you a bottle of scotch.
After the break. I did the first story on that. David Ingram will now give you succinctly and hopefully pungently the reason he should be elected mayor of Vancouver.
Okay, number one, I'm the only single person that's running for mayor that is a businessman. Everybody else is
Single?
sitting
You mean
there.
not married?
No, well, I'm the only person that is running for mayor that is a businessman and isn't a lawyer. So that's number one. Number two, I believe that it's ridiculous out there that we will give a single lady on welfare her $8,000 for herself and her 3 children. Welfare, we'll give her free drugs, we'll give her free medical treatment, but we won't give her $15 worth of bus passes or something to go downtown to Stanley Park on a weekend to take her kids out to something that we can enjoy. I think quality of life in Vancouver is the most important part. I think that if we're going to sit down, we should take a look at our transportation system, and we should not just look at it, we should bring it in. It's time to stop playing around with it. Let's bring the thing in and let's do it. I think that Vancouver should take a look at a proposal that Mayor Voorhees, Mike Harcourt, and everybody that was on council except for our Warnock Kennedy disallowed or disproved. And that was a situation where a person with $750 million company, that's Holloway Disposal, Laidlaw Transport, offered to post a $2.5 million bond and pick up the city of Vancouver's garbage at a $1.5 million saving. That proposal was rejected by City Council. They didn't even look at it. There was a $2.5 million bond. They offered to pick up
Why
the
did they
garbage.
not look at it?
Jack, you tell me why they didn't look at it.
Because contracting out of the city garbage would cause an instant strike.
Well, it could cause problems, but they didn't even look at it. And
How many civil servants, garbage people could you dump if you got this private company to do it?
Well, it wasn't a question of dumping anyway, because they offered to hire the people that were going to be replaced by it. They
Get them off
offered
the
to buy
city fringe benefits.
They offered to hire the people. They offered to take over the equipment. They also offered to, after 3 years, by building a garbage recycling plant, they offered to pay the city of Vancouver something for their garbage. And I think that's more important. They were going to burn the garbage. They were going to recycle the parts of the garbage that were recyclable. They were going to build a plant that would burn the garbage and also take over the Iona sludge. And remember that Iona sludge is something that sits there with half the BTUs of bituminous coal, and we could be producing energy out of the city of Vancouver's garbage and getting rid of the pollution of the Fraser River. And
it's a radical concept in today's totally unionized city.
It is not a radical concept in relation to the beauty of Vancouver and the things that are going along in a water-oriented city.
You don't expect votes from civic workers, do you?
I believe that the civic workers should look at it and they should vote for it, because in the long run it's for their own betterment. At any rate, that's part of the other part.
Anti-union.
It is not anti-union, Jack. You know,
I'm not saying you're wrong to be anti-union. I'm pointing it out.
Here's a situation where right now a person that is a garbage worker in the city of Vancouver who's driving a truck could in fact buy his own truck and go out and be a contractor. He could be self-employed. He can get a heck of a lot more money in his pocket in the long run. He can use all the tax benefits that all the business people do. He can be self-employed. That's what was being offered to them.
But he's got no index pension and no 35-hour week.
Don't look at it
no
as
40-day week.
Don't look at it as a negative thing. Look at it as a positive thing, Mr. Webster.
Well, that's it. No, I'm encouraging you to tell your story, but I'm pointing out that it's such a revolutionary concept that Voorhees wouldn't touch it, nor would Harcourt with a 10-foot, a 50-foot garbage truck.
I know that they wouldn't. I know that they wouldn't touch it, and that's one of the things that's wrong with them for running.
You are
for
a
mayor.
committed free enterpriser who would contract out anything as efficiently as you could and get all these civil servant workers off your back.
Mr. Webster, let's look at it this way.
Don't
The
call me
$1.5 million that was going to be saved in this year's garbage pickup by that would have funded every single good grant that was applied for to the City of Vancouver last year. It would have given the Carnegie Library their grant, would have given DERA their grant, it would
Okay,
have looked after
you made
everybody.
that point well.
Okay.
Pure BC is okay, I presume, yes
Certainly
or no?
Pure BC. I'm much in favor of it, and I find it absolutely insanity that we ever considered building it without a hotel and business
In the first
premises
place.
on the first place. It's needed to make the convention
David
center
Ingram,
work.
how old, David? 50?
38 years old.
38. Frank,
Yes, sir.
don't tell me your views on abortion, nothing to do with the
No,
city.
I'll just mention the following.
1 minute.
The Sunday shopping, ward system, cheaper transportation on the ferries for the old people, looking after getting jobs for young people, have cooperative cheaper housing, and in regards to Mr. Ingram, I don't agree because I'm a union guy, and the same thing happened with BC Tel. Contracting out is a dead loss. We're going to be out of jobs in a very short time, so I think you'll lose a lot of votes over that.
David, ward system.
Award system, I'm 100% for it.
For it.
Yes, I think it's ridiculous that people that are running for alderman have to run at large and make themselves known. in
If
the
you
city
get
of
less
Vancouver.
than 20,000 votes, fewer than 20,000 votes, you owe me a large, brown, dark bottle of fluid.
That's correct.
My thanks to Frank Helden. Nice of you to come, Frank. Nice of you to come, David. See how nice I've been to everybody this morning?
Sure am.
Oh, you're a pussycat.
After the break. When I was a boy, I lived in a highly industrialized city which had the biggest football stadium in the world. 150,000 people stood in that stadium. And on a cup final or an England-Scotland game, they could clear that 150,000 people in less than 30 minutes. And they were able to do that because they had subways, streetcars, high-speed railway trains, and buses. If we had 150,000 people in Vancouver, you'd think it was the end of the world. Am I right?
You're right.
What? You are regarded, you're lecturing at UBC in traffic, right?
That's right.
Alan Voorhees,
That's right, Jack.
traffic consultant. Why have you and the likes of you allowed the traffic system to degenerate into today's hopeless individual car mess?
Well, I don't think it was just the transportation people that wanted the development that we got today, but everybody wanted this single-family home out in the country, and that generated a lot of car action. And that's the basic problem we have today. And now we're seeing some resettlement, some people moving back into the center of the city, more interested in mass transit, public transport systems, subways. But right after the war was a different attitude.
Will the day come when all these ribbons of concrete, which infest California and other parts of the world, New York, Britain, Spaghetti Junction, Birmingham, whatever the hell it is, when there'll be empty relics of nothing with a few buses traveling on them?
No, I don't think so. I think they'll always be used. And even if we do much better in our transit systems, they'll still be used.
Now, you've been consulted in the transit systems for many major cities, from Washington to some Canadian cities. Where is there a good transportation system?
Under your definition, there is none right now. I think some of the cities, Toronto has done a good job, has a good balance of transit and highways, but they still have problems, particularly in the operation of the system. It's running at a deficit now, and it's expensive.
Shouldn't it be, though, that public transit, to save gas and everything else, should be subsidized so that we get as many cars off the road as we can?
There's no other way. There's no transit system in the developed world that's paying for itself. The only systems I know of that we've worked on are like those in Sao Paulo, Brazil, or Hong Kong, where you have huge loads of people all throughout the day. But in societies where the off-peak demands are largely taken by car, the transit system just has to be subsidized for that peak hour of travel.
If you were designing a city from scratch in North America, not in Sao Paulo, Brazil, or in Hong Kong or Tokyo, where you've got the people, what mix would you give it?
Well, a smaller city, you'd have to depend largely on buses and autos.
Like Vancouver.
Vancouver, you should get into the downtown area. About 80% of the trip should be by transit.
By public transit?
By public transport, yeah.
But now we're talking. We've got a real botch up here. Is it Dr. Voorhees?
Yeah, you can.
Dr. Voorhees, real botch up. We've got this much in surveys that cost so many $1 million. We've been fighting between interurban, light rapid transit, elevated transit. Pick one. For a city of the size of Vancouver, we'll say maximum 2 million people.
I'd say you should be above ground system, because if at all possible, it should be basically a two rail system. It could be either light rail or the regular rail system. There's much difference between those two systems. Maybe a system to 20 to 30 miles long in extent, or even higher, depending upon the exact layout of Vancouver. I'm not as familiar with the city as I should be.
Mm-hmm. I remember being in New York and the odd horrifying experience, because it's a kind of soulless town for an occasional visitor. And they still got the old elevated going. I was in Chicago where I saw the old elevated.
The elevated in Chicago is still going. Now, it's a we plan systems in Caracas, for example, above ground. In Washington, there are some portions of that system above ground. It's so much cheaper. It costs you about 4 times as much to go underground as compared with above ground. So you're looking for opportunities where you can do that without having much impact on the environment.
So for medium-sized cities, we'll say subway is out because of the incredible disruption and 4 times the cost.
Yeah.
And you would go basically for buses.
Well, buses and then about, say, 20 or 30 miles of subway or elevated system, a rail system.
Is there one rail system that's better than another right now? Or does it not really matter?
No, it doesn't matter that much.
As long as it's light rapid transit.
Well, the light rapid transit is about the same weight as the heavy rapid transit, be truthful about it. It's just that one has a small car versus the more train concept that you normally think of a regular.
I remember the ones they had at Expo for whipping people around.
Oh yeah, those light.
What about BART in San Francisco, the Bay Area Rapid Transit? Is that a good system or not?
That's a good. It's probably too advanced, like the Washington system. Lots of technical breakdowns. We have ticket systems that are much more elaborate than needed to be, and they're costing huge sums of money just to maintain.
Mm-hmm. When you're lecturing to students, though, what do you tell them basically about the concept of traffic? To discount the automobile except for weekend travel?
No, I think try to put in perspective the use of the automobile, the average family, what it's going to use it for in the future, and the changes that are likely to occur in social patterns and their lifestyles, because this all affects the demand of transportation.
Well, we've got a crazy transportation system here, but we carry millions of people a year in cars on the ferries. Should we get away from car-moving ferries too?
That's a pretty efficient way of transporting people. Certainly a lot cheaper than going to bridges or any other type of facility.
Well, we're talking about a 28-mile tunnel here across the Vancouver Island.
Those are huge sums related to tunnels. I can hardly see that kind of cost.
Okay, I'll have a couple words more with Mr. Voorhees and then let him go after the break. I was looking for a simple solution to the traffic problems in the years ahead, but I can see now why everybody's confused. There is no simple answer.
There is none, that's right. And I think in some of the cities that we've worked in, similar size for like Newcastle, in England, we came up with about a 10-mile system, largely on ground or above ground, tied into the railroad system of downtown area. Maybe somewhat similar to the one that's being considered here. It's working well.
We don't know what's being considered
you know what?
here. Nobody knows.
Yeah, well, that's the usual situation until the politicians finally make a decision they're going ahead with it.
And then we've got a big fight over who controls the transit.
I know you always have that.
A transit authority imposed on us, and the government's going to pay part of the losses part of the time for part of the years. Then the federals...
Then you start getting federal funds in, and they'll ask you to do it differently.
And they avoid the responsibility. They make promises for large sums of money, and they don't come through on it.
That's right. But it will finally come about. I remember in Washington 25 years ago, the same programs and same issues that you're talking about, the role of the federal government, and then what kind of agencies should structure and how should the local people be represented in it. They're always there. And it takes a long while to get them out of the way and get started.
Well, how long are you lecturing at UBC for?
Well, I'm going to be here this week and talking to several groups and with some of the students.
Well, I hope you have more luck with some of the groups than I've had, because I want to be helpful in these things, but it's just that you get so confused. Trolley buses, we used to have gas buses, so trolley buses are a step in the right direction, aren't they?
That's right.
Oh no, what do we have now? Quick, somebody. Do we have trolleys still? Yeah. Sure. And ordinary diesel buses?
Yeah. And buses, yes.
I don't travel on the bus very often, because I come at a time to work in the morning, 6:30, you see, when there ain't no public transit, so therefore I've got to use a car.
There's an awful lot of people in our society that cannot use the transit systems. At least 1/3 of the jobs in the metropolitan area you can't even get to by transit. And then the typical situation, it takes 2 or 3 times as long to get to a lot of the jobs by transit compared with the car. That's why people are using the car.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Just think of your own life or your friend's life that aren't downtown and are scattered here. Some people, like a carpenter, works one place one day and another place another.
Yeah, mind you, in the good old days with the concentrated cities and public transit stretching into every corner of it, that was possible. We'll never get back to the efficiency of industrial Europe for transit, will we? Or industrial east coast of New York, of the States.
No, we'll never.
That's a dream.
That's a dream.
And it won't be the private helicopter.
No.
Might be the electric car.
We'll see the electric car, I'm sure.
You and me, you mean?
Yes, you and I.
Only on golf courses.
Oh, no. Oh, no. No, we'll see it.
There's nothing more depressing than driving through these little communities of the dying in California where it says all speeds restricted to 15 miles an hour, beware of golf carts. And the only thing that happens every day is who's getting buried today. Yeah. And they follow the cortege in their golf carts.
Well, I think the electric car or some other kind of vehicle is going to replace the gasoline engine in the future. When, I don't know. But
thank you very much, Mr. Voorhees. Fred will take off your microphone because we don't have a commercial break at the moment. And Anton and I were going to chat up something, and I forget what it is. What is it? Oh, the Cancer Society. We'll do that another morning. I'll tell you what I'll do from now till the end. I'll just review some of my program this morning. I don't know how the program went this morning, except for the piece with the Prinsendam man, and I hope you got my message about the Ombudsman Dr. Karl Friedman. Wasn't trying to one-up him too much, but I was very happy to be able to take the Attorney General's Department off the hook for once in its life by pointing out to you that they told Dr. Friedman that the file was lost. They tell me it's not lost. And I suppose I come down on the side of the Attorney General to some extent, in that with one telephone call I found the file. The file is in the offices. This is the file of the transcript of the public hearings on the Buleigh affair, are in the offices of the Judicial Council of British Columbia. And I'm going to take some... Have I any letters on standby this morning? No, I don't. I'm going to take some telephone calls now to fill in the time till the end of the program. I might have time to take some more opinion about scanners. I, of course, was very unfair to Jim Nielsen this morning, the Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs, because I happen myself to be personally opposed to scanners. I go to the Super Valley in Park Royal maybe once a month, and occasionally I'll get the order. I put the order through for my wife, and I get thoroughly confused. I have no idea what I've paid for things, and the ping, 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 and looking both ways drives me around the bend. Now, maybe it's just because I'm a little advanced in age nowadays that I find that a little difficult to do. And I don't know. I think we must, in some measure, keep the personal touch when it comes to shopping. I always used to, watch these slick girls in Safeway, Super Valley, and Woodward's pick up the item, name the price, punch it in, shout it out, put it over for the packer. Then you knew what you were buying, and you could say, my God, is that the price of bacon? My God, is that the price of tomatoes? And the price of food these days would just... Well, a lot of people are probably not spending any more of their disposable income if they're covered by a union agreement or they're working for a good firm. But all I say is that God help those people on fixed incomes who have to go out and buy food nowadays because they drive around the bend. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to talk to you with regards to scanners.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, listen, I'd just like to say that I think that the girls behind the checkout there are making $11 an hour, and I would really like to see them do some work, you know, instead of with the scanners.
Ping, ping. Yeah, you think for $11 an hour we should have the prices shouted out at us?
Yeah, you bet.
Well, if it is $11 an hour, I don't know. Maybe it's 9 something.
No, I think it's 11. I know. I've got friends who work there.
You're just jealous. That's your problem. What do you do for a living?
Right now I'm unemployed.
Oh, I was going to ask you how much you make. How old are you?
Right now I'm 23.
Right now, what do you get on UIC?
What do I get on UIC? 156 a week.
What?
Yeah.
156 a week?
Yeah, you bet.
4, 6, 20, 1 can do, 4, 2 can do, 4, 2, 6, plus a half 100. That's 700 a month.
Yeah.
That's taxable, mind you, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what did you do before you, what was your job?
I was a carpenter's helper.
How much are you getting of that?
About $8.50 an hour.
So you'll stay on unemployment insurance all winter?
Well, I hope not.
No, but I mean, you're eligible too.
Yeah, I am eligible. Yeah.
Do you live at home?
Yes, I do.
With the old folks?
What's this?
With your people?
Yeah, with my parents.
With your parents. Yeah. So you've got $700 a month pocket money?
Yeah.
Happy as a lark.
What's this?
Do you go skiing every weekend?
No.
Can you get a job?
Pardon?
Can't you get a job?
Well, actually, I'm doing all right now looking. I've got a few options coming my way right now, so.
Well, you won't take it if it's less than $700 a month after taxes, will you?
That's for sure.
How times have changed. And I accept the change. Much obliged.
Thank you very much.
Right, maybe you can get a job as a scanner at a supermarket.
$11 an hour, you bet. Thanks very much.
Right. Finish up with bad feet, though. Right, not nice standing there all day with people snapping at you. It's like me. But then again, everybody's nice to me. Go ahead, please.
Hello, Jack.
Yes.
I work for Safeway.
Yeah.
And they've just come out with a new pricing policy in the stores without scanners. And it's basically trying to speed up the service at the check stands. And I do sympathize with the customer when I believe myself that when the stock is being put into the store and is priced at that price, it should be sold at that price.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When they price it at that time, they were making enough profit on that price.
Can they reprice without remarking?
When they reprice it, when it goes through the computer and is upped in price at a scanner store, then they are actually making more than they thought they would at the beginning.
How do the girls like using the scanners?
Pardon me?
How do the girls like using the scanners on the cash desk?
They're a little slow. They are a little slow. Sometimes they have to go over...
Why do they have to switch it across sometimes more than once?
Because it doesn't pick it up. Like at first the...
Well, how do I know? It may have picked it up twice.
This is true too. But at first the scanner, that little plastic top on your scanner would scratch. And it would, when the reading would go through, it would pick up a different reading.
What they'll have next is that every time you pick it out of the shelf and put it in your basket will ring it up.
Well, maybe they should come up with that. But right now, I think that the public is a little concerned about not knowing...
Well, I just am at the stage where I like the girl to tell me how much each item is, and I cannot do this bit. I just can't do it. And if I haven't got my glasses, I'm dead.
Well, does it not register on the cash register when you go through? Like when it is put over the scanner, does it not show exactly how much it is?
Just by the way, do you see that wee thing there? Can you see it? Can you come in on it, somebody?
Yeah, got it.
See it? It's not a green rose.
True, no doubt there, but there's...
No, just a minute, I'm talking about something else. Just thanks and goodbye. That is a hairbrush, which was given to me, believe it or not, by Angelo Dundee, Muhammad Ali's guy who threw in the towel the other night. Murray Pezham, I think it was, brought Muhammad Ali up here 5 or 6 years ago. Where's the picture? Oh, somebody took down my pictures. When I interviewed Muhammad Ali, and Angelo Dundee gave me that wee hairbrush. Smashing. Man, you've got to have hair to be able to do that.
Scourer.
No, it's not a pot scourer, it's a hairbrush. A very good one, too. As Margaret often says to me, why don't you brush your hair out of your eyes? You look like a hippie. Where am I going? Victoria. Go ahead, please.
Mr. Webster, I wish to comment on the pricing system that Mr. Nielsen was referring to.
Do you think he knows anything about it?
No, I don't, because I also work in a large supermarket chain store where we have just...
That phone's fading today. We'll have to check that after the program. You're what?
I also work in a large supermarket chain. And I also agree with the gentleman where I think all items should be priced for the benefit of the customers.
Yeah.
And as to his comment of the local stores not being able to afford to price items, I believe every local store in Victoria where I'm calling from, all the items are priced, and if not, a gun that is specially used for pricing items is a $55 investment anyway.
I'm sure in my local stores that the items are individually priced, because I always look at the price of my litre coffee, gasp, and put it back again. Yeah, well, $5.47 or something.
That's right. You know, it's a $55 price gun, and the companies normally supply the rolls for the first go anyway. Also, if there's a power failure or something like that, has happened in several of the main stores, even if it's 10 minutes or, you know, a 10-second power failure, all the machines go offline, so you have customers lined up galore waiting for the machines to be fixed.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, that's something that happens with...
But just a minute, if there's a power failure in my favorite supermarket, I'm stuck?
You're stuck until they get the computer programmed in the head
office. No. Pick up a brown paper bag and write it on the outside of the bag.
That's right.
Remember they used to do that?
Yeah. You know, and
remember the Chinese stores that used to have the abacus?
That's right. And some of them over here still do.
That's as quick as a computer.
And also...
Look, I've got to leave it. I'll come back to the subject again with the consumers and with Safeway people. I think it's one day next week. Grateful for your cooperation this morning. I enjoyed it, even if you didn't. Much obliged. Thank you. I'll be back after the break. We had a picture of Ken Speirs and his wife, but it just arrived too late for that part of the program.
Just 1 minute too late.
Tomorrow morning, Gladys.
Continuing with the mayoralty candidates.
No, Kinnaird, the BC Federation of Labour on the PSAC strike. Jack Buleigh in tomorrow?
Yes.
Another busy morning.
Yes.
Tomorrow 9 a.m. precisely.